What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So something I've noticed going into the generation for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X is there are a lot of weird controversies that have been popping up. Of course, we just dealt with the Xbox Series X and the heat controversy that had everyone with a preview unit look at it with a thermal camera. But now there's another one that seems to be popping up online. I thought I'd bring it up here to see what all of you thought down in the comments about it, because it at least does have to do with resolution, just not necessarily resolution in games. Also, a leak that took place for the PS5 weeks ago appears to have been proven correct after that UI or user experience video that was shown off, and it does seem to show us how much space of that 825 gigabyte SSD we will have access to, and it's quite a bit less than that advertised amount. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton, and if brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below, and we're gonna start today with a new addition to Game Pass, and that is Rainbow Six Siege. This was announced yesterday, and this is pretty cool, even though a lot of people who probably already wanted it have bought it. It's been on sale a lot. They even had like a starter edition that was pretty cheap on places like Steam, and it gave you like a set amount of operatives, and then you go through and unlock them, but they also have like a deluxe edition you can get. They've basically tried to break this thing down and make it as cheap as possible, but now it looks like it will be going to Game Pass October 22nd, and they have this page here that talks a bit about it, saying with access to dozens of operators, be the hero and choose exactly how you want to approach each challenge you encounter. And then it goes on to say, for now, charge your controllers and get your map notes ready. See you in game on October 22nd. Now, we of course know that Rainbow Six Siege will also have an enhancement patch going into next generation for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. And I assume with it on Game Pass, we'll also do smart delivery and all of that, depending on if you're on the S or the X, but this is just good overall. Like I said, a lot of people already play it. They tout 60 million players, or 60 million people have bought the game and checked it out, but it is still very, very popular despite being around for a while, and it's something that Ubisoft have leveraged going forward as their real live service game, I would say, but certainly worth checking out in just a few days on Game Pass. Also, if you were one of the lucky people, seemingly anyway, to get the Mario Kart Live bundle, whether it's the Mario bundle or the Luigi bundle, although the Luigi bundle seems to be more rare, and I had pre-ordered on Walmart, just at least showed up. Some people said they got theirs canceled and all of this, but if you did happen to get it, it does look like if one of your gates gets damaged, or let's say you need more arrows, or even those get damaged, you can actually print those out, as Nintendo has now released them as PDFs. You can download them, print them out, of course. Now, the gates, it seems you can use up to 4, and that's it. But the arrows, from what I can tell, you can just use plenty of them. So you can just start setting them down. Mine, I believe, came with 2 sets of arrows, so you can do those, and then, of course, all the gates. But naturally, these will probably get torn up and damaged. It's not exactly sturdy or anything. It's cardboard paper, all of this, so it's natural it would get damaged. But it's good to see that Nintendo at least released them. We can just print them out ourselves and replace those if we need to. I'll leave a link down below in the sources if you do need to print out more of those arrows for maybe some really long tracks and you're trying to guide people around it. The AR, the whole augmented reality thing, is really cool, by the way. The more I've been playing it recently, the more you really notice it. And again, you get that augmented reality, and then the disappointing reality when you actually look at what's happening out there in the living room. Oh, and do you remember how 13 was coming out? Well, we had it delayed originally. It's supposed to come out like earlier this year, got delayed to November. Now it looks like it's still going to be coming out in November, but only on some of the platforms, not all of them. Specifically, the Switch looks to be getting pushed to 2021. You can see this tweet here says 13 unveils its fighting gear and a new good old weapons trailer, available on November 10th on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. The game will release on Nintendo Switch in 2021. Now that is unfortunate, but they also don't mention anything about PS5 or Xbox Series X here, although I would assume it will be backwards compatible with something like the Series X, and who knows, maybe the PS5 as well. But that is certainly a shame. I hope that this means that if they don't have this out until 2021, they'll take some more time to do things like the HD Rumble, of course, and gyro controls. I mean, if you release a first-person shooter now on the Switch without gyro controllers, it's just like, why? You might as well leverage it it's there, but we'll see what they do there. I am checking this out November 10th, though. I'll probably pick it up on the Xbox and see how it runs on the Series X even after that. But I am excited for 13 either way. It's just a shame that the Switch version is going to end up falling to next year. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's get into the latest next generation controversy, because there seems to be a ton of it right now. Let's talk about the UI for either system. That is like the biggest thing right now that people are talking about, the resolution of the user interface. When you start your system up, what resolution does it render all those menus and text and all of this at? And it looks like the PlayStation 5 will be in 4K, and it will also leverage HDR if you have a compatible set. But what about the Xbox Series X? That is the more powerful system, right? It has 12 teraflops. Apparently, it's going to be 1080p, which seems to be confusing a lot of people. I've seen some on Twitter, like John Linneman, mention this as well. He seems unsure as to why that is. And then we've also heard from Jeff Grubb, Tom Warren, people who do have the preview hardware right now are checking out, are also confirming, yes, it is indeed 1080p. And this has come up online as a talking point as to why this is. Now, with the Xbox One X, it is also being rendered in 1080p. So, to be honest, if that looks fine to you now, you probably won't care too much. And really, at the end of the day, this probably isn't a massive deal. It just doesn't line up with Microsoft's messaging overall, because Microsoft has been saying over and over and over again, trying to just really beat it into our brains that this is the most powerful console released, but it also has a 1080p UI, which again, is kind of off from their messaging. Now, with the Xbox One X, the reason apparently that they decided to have that 1080p rather than 4K is so that they could free up some of the memory so that developers could use that instead. Apparently, they even had complaints about that, and they kind of backed off. They're originally going to have it at 4K for the UI. Now, the other interesting thing here is, according to Jeff Grubb, he had made mention that the embargo and all of the paperwork seems to mention that that could be updated, or just don't dwell on it as much right now. And there is some really belief speculation that that might be an update, because there are also some games right now that are supposed to be compatible on release day for the Series X that are not compatible right this second, and that's all preview hardware. Now, we're getting pretty close to release, so maybe there is a day one patch that takes that from 1080p up to 4K. However, I do hear people say, look, if that's going to take away resources from developers, it's just a UI. I don't really care that much. And yeah, I mean, really, you're not going to be playing the UI. You will see the UI a lot. Every time you turn on your console, you're probably going to see it at least some menus. But I do wonder if that really is that much. Like if they never said anything, Sony or Microsoft, but we had 4K here and 1080p here, how many people would really stop and notice overall? Like, the vast majority of people probably would not. But let me know what you think about this situation, because I don't really think it should be a massive controversy until at least after the system is out. We're dealing with prototypes, preview hardware, all of this, and Microsoft said don't worry too much about that. There could be a chance it just gets updated closer to launch, and then we just wasted all of this time arguing about it online, like usual. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5, the UI, and the amount of space on that SSD that will actually be available to you day one when you turn your PS5 on, before you start installing any of your games. Now, there was a leak earlier, weeks ago, that showed someone with what looked to be one of those black prototype controllers with like the white buttons and the symbols. We saw, of course, an all black. It was all blacked out, buttons all black and all this that was submitted to the FCC so they could check things out. It looks like that was a prototype, but then of course we saw the one with the white buttons in an image and a video that shows the UI starting up, and then that was then accompanied with several images of more menus that did include the size of the SSD at 664 gigabytes. Then we, of course, had that overall unveiling of the user experience, which included the user interface, and Yongye did take a look at everything side by side and noticed, seemingly, that leak was correct. A lot of things at the bottom, for example, some of the symbols, whether it's the friends or the messaging or even the time and the power button, all this stuff lined up like almost one-to-one perfectly, which was a good job by Young to notice that, because really that just tells us that, yeah, there's probably about 664 gigabytes that will be accessible to us, which is, that's a lot to lose, but keep in mind, the Xbox Series X loses almost 200 gigabytes. That appears to be due to the quick resume that they are doing, but after seeing what the PS5 is doing with activities, I would kind of expect something similar in that sense, that they're going to reserve quite a bit of the SSD so that they can take games and dump those in to the SSD, and then you could access them later. That's how all that is essentially functioning on like the Series X. That's why things like power cycling the system don't erase all of those games that you've stored, because you're storing them on the SSD, not in memory. Now, while this does look pretty concrete overall, I do want to point out that that was a prototype controller. They could have been working with a UI that is set up to match, but also is set up for developers to use. So who knows, maybe the SSD itself, maybe there will be more room for us, and this isn't a definitive storage amount because that could just be a dev kit. But I am kind of leaning in that direction based on what they showed us with the UI and how it does seem to similarly match what Microsoft is doing with quick resume and those activities. But let me know what you think about going from 825 gigabytes on the box all the way down to like 664 gigabytes. That's like 20% of the overall space that you don't get to use. Also, that does mean that we might be dropping some of our own NVMe drives in here sooner rather than later, so hopefully Sony has that whitelist of different NVMe drives ready to go, because we'll definitely be going over it here and trying to figure out what the best option is in terms of dollar versus gigabytes. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 backwards compatibility, but with a specific game. Specific demo, I guess. Well, we're still calling it a demo, even though it kind of lives on as its own entity at this point. It's something we'll be telling our grandkids about way down the road, about how we were one of the lucky few who played through PT on the PlayStation 4 when it was released, and there was a lot of hope, and then Konami said, hey, we got slot machines to make. We're not doing PT, okay? Well, it looks like, at least according to Konami, and they worded this kind of in a weird way, we'll talk a bit about this, they did address the situation around PT on the PlayStation 5, and this is what they had to say. The content will not be available on the PlayStation Store, so users won't be able to re-download the content through the backwards compatibility feature to the PS5. And this was in an email to Games Radar, essentially confirming that, well, we're not really having PT set up for you to download. However, I am curious what happens here if you already have PT on your PlayStation 4, because we know that you'll be able to transfer it over. We talked about how you can use Ethernet, of course, to transfer it over if you want, or you can back everything up to a hard drive or a USB stick. So is PT actually not backwards compatible, or will it still work? Because Sony didn't list it, but keep in mind, that was a demo, so they might not even consider that as a, I guess, big enough launch or anything to even include it on their whitelist or even their list of games that won't work because it was never actually released. This is going to be interesting, and I'm sure someone will try this. They will move PT over and see if it works, and I kind of feel like it will, because I'm sure the PS5 can at least emulate the PS4 enough to play PT, but that is going to be something to see. And like I said, I'll look forward to launch day to see that happening, because someone is trying that immediately. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about some early Black Friday news that has to do with GameStop. Now, of course, GameStop is trying to navigate the situation with retail during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's certainly not easy to figure all of this out, to keep a large corporation afloat during these times, and they've tried all kinds of crazy and wild stuff. Now, we're getting to the point where we're almost at Uber Games now, where they'll deliver stuff to you right away, and that seems to be something they'll even be trying leading up to Black Friday. But there is some bit of good news here. It does appear that if you are an employee at GameStop, you won't have to worry about working on Thanksgiving. GameStop has, of course, been open on Thanksgiving, I think, every year for a little while now, where they would open pretty later on during Thanksgiving, and then they try to stay open, I think, all the way up to like Black Friday, and they'd close for like 3 hours, then reopen super early in the morning. Then does not look like that will be the case, as they have announced that they will not be open on Thanksgiving. Good news there. And it looks like they'll actually be doing a lot more pre-Black Friday sales, which makes sense. If they can spread it out throughout really the month of November, that's probably much better than trying to bring everyone together in like 5 hours of madness Like, it would be crazy to get a ton of people together right now in a small retail space like that. And let's be real, most of us would probably prefer to just be able to buy these things online and have them shipped to us, especially this year. So if they kind of space them out, do their little deals of the day, maybe they do like a 28 days or something throughout November of like holiday shopping and Black Friday deals or something leading up to the end of the month. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. Just do it that way. And they can kind of participate in, of course, a lot of online shopping or do some in-store deals, but kind of spread them out rather than do it all at once. They'll still do something on Black Friday, and I'm sure it'll still be mayhem, but the more they can spread it out and alleviate that situation of building a massive crowd in one spot is probably a good idea for them and, you know, everyone else. Also, we will be doing some videos here on the channel for different Black Friday deals as the ads come out, and of course, anything for Cyber Monday, because I think Cyber Monday is going to be bigger than usual this year due to everything that was going on. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Build Lancer saying, dude, you forgot to mention console of the year, Atari VCS. Yeah, okay, quick update on that one. I think it's gonna be here within a month. They took a photo shoot with all of those pallets of Atari VCS systems, and I got an email. It's like, hey, you should be covered. You'll be getting yours soon. Okay, great. I've heard that like 5 times now, but I should also get a controller with it, and I'm thinking like sometime in November it will arrive, and we can check it out. It's gonna be a surreal feeling, by the way, when the Atari VCS actually shows up and we open it up and we check the thing out. It's gonna be this crazy situation, and then we'll crash back down into reality when we realize that it really is just a mini PC and I was probably ripped off. But who knows, they could surprise me. Maybe they'll drop some Atari token in the box for me. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. You gotta let me know if it's a big deal to you that the Xbox Series X UI, this is the most powerful console coming out, by the way, next to the PS5, that's gonna be 4K UI. Is it a big deal that the Series X is a 1080p UI, or are you not gonna care because you're like, I just want to play the games. I'm not gonna sit there staring at menus for hours. Let me know about that one. And then also, what about the PS5 and its seemingly confirmed now 664 gigabytes of available storage? Is that too little storage, you think, based on what we're seeing with some of these games? And are you gonna start looking for NVMe drives as soon as that list drops from Sony? Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.